Welcome to MCN and welcome to a bike that I was really excited to ride. So this is Suzuki's DRZ4SM. And I was excited to ride this bike because we need to get more people into biking. We need to get more younger people into riding, and an A2 compliant supermoto sounds exciting, doesn't it? It sounds fun. But after riding it today, I'm going to tell you why I think Suzuki have just missed the mark with this bike. So before I tell you what it's like to ride, I'm sort of going to tell you what it is, just in case you don't know. So it's essentially a modern take on the DRZ400 family. And when I say a modern take, it's basically the 2025 version. So last year, we tested out the DRZ4S, and this shares pretty much the exact same platform. So it's got the same 398cc single cylinder motor. It makes 38 brake horsepower and just over 27 foot-pound of torque. It's got the same chassis. And then what Suzuki have done, have given it some smaller wheels, they've given it some road tyres, and they've given it some shorter travel suspension with some different settings, and they've also tweaked the electronics slightly. So on this model, you can only switch the rear ABS off, whereas on the S you can switch both. Aside from that, it is pretty much exactly the same, besides a few little tweaks here and there. And today, we have been riding it both on the road and at a closed test track as well. So before we start with the bad, I'm going to start with what's good about this bike. As you might imagine from a supermoto that's under 160 kilos, that's, you know, sub 400cc, it's really light, it's really nimble, and it's really easy to ride. If you look at the spec sheet and you look at sort of seat heights and stuff, that might put you off, but it's really narrow, it's really thin. And even though the suspension isn't ridiculously soft, it's soft enough. When you get on it, it's easy to touch the floor. The steering circle is really nice and tight, and it's really well balanced at slower speeds as well. As like a commuter or as an around town bike, it'd be absolutely brilliant for darting in and out of traffic. And the engine is super smooth as well. The fly-by-wire throttle connection's really nice, even in the most aggressive of the three engine modes. And the rider aids are actually really good as well. So some Japanese models tend to be on the more conservative side, but the ABS isn't too intrusive when you're running it a little bit harder. Like the traction control's fairly good. If like when you're playing around with wheelies and stuff like we was doing earlier, if you've got the traction control, it's not too aggressive. It's actually quite a nice system, and it feels like quite a lot of thought has gone into it. And another thing to say as well is the slipper clutch is great on it. So, you know, if you want to ride it like a supermoto and do supermoto-y things on it, like, you know, bellow it down from fifth into second and use a bit of rear brake, have a bit of fun, get it a bit sideways. It is a really easy, gentle, forgiving bike for that. The chassis is really nice, and it's just an easy, fun machine to ride, especially when you can, you know, let it loose a bit. But on the flip side, that means that it is a bit of a one-trick pony. So we're going to start with the big elephant in the room, and that's the price. So it's £1 under £8,000, £7,999, which is a lot of money. So, for example, KTM's 390 SMCR, when that arrives, we should hopefully be getting that in the next couple of months. That's got the same sort of formula. It's a sub 500cc A2 compliant supermoto. It makes more power than the DRZ4SM, and it's just over £5,500. It's about 5,600, 5,700 as this goes out, and that is a big chunk less cash for a bike that is a sort of in a similar realm. And for your £8,000, I've got to say, when you're riding it on the road, it's ridiculously uncomfortable. So the seat is really nice and fun and spacious when you're doing supermoto things, you're moving about a lot, but if you're sitting for a long period of time, even sort of 20, 25 minutes, which, you know, you'd expect to do, it's really hard. You find yourself moving around. Even though it's a supermoto and it's quite spacious, the peg to seat is quite small. So if you're a taller rider, you probably struggle a bit with that. And when you're riding on sort of A roads, you'll really notice the motor. So It is a little bit gutless if you're sort of a couple of gears or a gear too high. You've really got to work it. And because Suzuki have opted to stay with a 5-speed gearbox, it means that it's incredibly revvy at the top end. You're always sort of searching for a 6th gear. I think it was about 60, 63, 64 mile an hour. It starts to get really buzzy. And you're always just searching for that 6th gear. It's a real shame because if you want to be doing like the odd A road and stuff, you will find that it really will send you a bit bananas after not so many miles. Another thing to add is that because it's a fairly premium price, it feels like a lot of, you know, thought and energy has gone into a lot of the bike, but then some of it's just a bit of a letdown. So the dash, although it's analog and, you know, it's quite cool, it's very easy to use. I don't really feel like you need the 3 rider modes on a bike like this because the A mode is so nice and so easy to use anyway. They could easily have just left it with 1. And where they've adopted it straight from the 4S, it's still just like the little details I wish would be addressed. So the ABS mode still says off-road on the dash. They could have just changed that to supermoto mode. It's a little detail that would have just been a really nice touch. And even though this is not a bike made for going off-road, it's still got the gravel traction control setting that the DRZ4S has. So it's like, you'd never take it on a gravel road. You'd never really want that for, you know, a little bit of sliding on a fire track or something like that. It's like, they have literally just taken it from one bike and stuck it on the other, or just, you know, stuck a new set of wheels in, which is a real shame because, you know, a few little tweaks, an extra gear in the gearbox, a little dash more comfort, and it would have been an incredible bike, especially if it was priced a bit lower. But for where it is and what it costs, I think it's a bit too much and it might send you a little bit mad. Now, we're really excited that Suzuki built this bike. We're really excited that KTM are building theirs. So as soon as that lands, we'll be getting them both in for a group test, and yeah, we'll see which one will be the king of the A2 supermotos. But let us know what you think of this video. Please leave us a comment below. Let us know if you think, you know, Suzuki have made the right call with this bike. If it's something that you'd be interested in, please like, please subscribe. We've got loads more awesome first rides coming up, and we've got some mega group tests in the pipeline. So stay tuned, and catch you soon.